So, to give a bit of backstory, my family owns a cabin in Minnesota, and we decided to head over there for MEA weekend. I was 14 at the time, and I brought my best friend along, and so did my sister. Anyway, we had a great time playing in the excluded woods that surround our cabin, but then something really strange happened. It was Saturday night. Me, my dad, my friend, my sister, and her friend decided to play ping pong. At the time, my dad really liked his Bluetooth speaker he had recently gotten, so he decided to play the radio from his phone to the speaker. It was all normal. Suddenly, as we were playing ping pong, the radio cuts out and is replaced by this eerie, resonating tribal chanting. The drum beats kind of sound like the Jumanji theme. All of us stopped what we were doing and just froze. We were incredibly weirded out. Looking back, we remembered the ground shaking and the upstairs also looking like it was shaking. To us, it sounded like it was coming from the upstairs, but that was impossible since the radio was downstairs with us. Suddenly, as quickly as it began, it just cut right back into the song that was playing before this strange event. Even weirder, when I went upstairs to see if my mom heard it too, she said she didn't hear a thing, even though all of us agreed that the house was shaking. A few months later, my mom, my aunt, and my sister are going for a walk through our trails that cut through the woods. Suddenly, as they were ambling around, my aunt and my sister heard drum beats in the distance. So, our cabin is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, and the people who do live close to it don't play the drums. So, it is incredibly weird to hear drum beats in the woods, in the middle of nowhere. What I thought was even stranger is that once again, my mom didn't hear the noise, even though she was right next to my aunt and my sister. A few more months later, my mom and my dad were in the hot tub that we have at the cabin. They were just chilling when my mom looks behind her and sees a man standing right there, with his one hand clenched and above his head. My mum screamed and moved away from the spot. Whatever it was disappeared. I was in the room at the time and I remember hearing my mum scream and wondering what it was about. The strange thing here is that this time my mum was the only one to see it. I don't know what is going on up at our cabin, an Indian burial ground, but if more stuff happens I will post again. I guess I am wondering if anyone can offer an explanation or similar experiences to these strange events. I am shy about speaking of this because it sounds unbelievable, and I don't want it to affect my credibility in real life with other people. I do not claim to know what happened in these scenarios. I don't ascribe it to ghosts or anything specific. All I know is that things happen in my house that I cannot explain. We moved into a house built in 1980 in 1992. I had a bedroom on the top floor that always made me feel strange. I was 4 at the time. I never played in there or slept in there. I slept on the floor in my brother's room for about a year. As I got older, I got over it and started sleeping in my bedroom. Things happened in the house pretty infrequently at that time. I only really just felt as though I was being watched and ran through the house quickly at night to get into my bed. I always felt extremely exposed, and I don't know why. At one point, my dad and I were in our living room, playing cards. I was maybe 8 at the time. We heard what sounded like someone walking back and forth in my brother's bedroom, right above us, but no one else was home. We went upstairs to my brother's room and saw nothing. We then heard the same walking in our living room, where we were playing cards. So we went back downstairs to check, and no one was there. At that point, we heard it on our wooden basement stairs, up and down, over and over. We checked that too, and it stopped. My dad and I both experienced this together, and neither of us could explain it. Around that time, I woke up in the middle of the night and felt this horribly depressing feeling. It was the same way that the Dementors in Harry Potter make them feel. Just that all joy had been sucked away. I felt it in my soul somehow, like it was part of me. Then my body just started shaking, like I was having a seizure. I know this sounds made up. I know it does. But my body was shaking like crazy, so I started praying and it stopped. I was afraid to fall asleep again after that, in case it would happen again. It never did. I did not have epilepsy. I was awake the entire time. I cannot explain what happened. Perhaps there's a medical explanation. I never really looked into it. When I got older, things started getting worse. As a teenager, I would wake up in the middle of the night to the sounds of someone walking up and down the stairs right outside my door. I would hear glass breaking in the living room. I would hear shuffling. I could never find evidence that things were altered in any way. No broken glass, no furniture out of place. It was bizarre. I never stopped feeling like I was being watched, but I never said anything. I always just heard things. My dad, however, claimed he saw his grandmother in her old rocking chair in our basement, and she was telling my dad he needs to straighten up. He died 2 years later. Lying in my bed at night, I could be watching TV or reading, would blink without thinking about it, and in my mind I would see an image of my bedroom with different creatures in the corner staring at me. I would blink again and the creatures would be, in my mind, standing above me or right next to me. Now, I can definitely consider this as some weird psychological thing manifesting, but I figured it was worth mentioning anyway, because I would just see these absurd humanoid type things in my bedroom when I blinked, and the next blink would always have them right by me, staring. There was a very tall, bowed woman in the corner once, covered in rags and skinny as a rail. She was hunched over and suddenly she was towering above me. It was like a scary movie and it really freaked me out at the time. Another was a short, little stumpy creature with a snarling face, also covered in rags or something, so I couldn't make out its body. Just covered in something, but not hair, and maybe only 3 feet tall. Anyway, the scariest thing that ever happened was around 1 PM in the afternoon one day. I was home alone. All the doors were locked. I was taking a bath upstairs. The stairs were right outside the bathroom, directly in front of it. I was just bathing and relaxing when I heard my dog making grunting sounds. She liked to sit on our stone mantel for our fireplace, and it sounded like her little nails were scraping across the stone. She was grunting like she was being shoved, which was strange, but I didn't really think anything of it. Suddenly, I hear what sounded like an extremely heavy something storming up the stairs. We had 14 stairs, and I only heard about 5 stomps. I grew extremely still, so the water in the tub wouldn't make a sound. I then hear heavy, angry breathing right outside the bathroom door. It sounded absolutely furious, and it did not sound like a human or an animal. It just sounded like primal rage. I can't really describe it. I'm not religious, but I started praying because it was all I could think to do in that moment. Suddenly, it just stopped. My adrenaline must have been insane, because after a moment of being absolutely stunned, I put my towel around me and looked everywhere in my house in case there was an intruder. I checked the doors, and they were still locked. There was no one in any closet, on any bed, nothing. It was just gone. At that point, I grabbed my cordless phone, no cell phones at the time, and ran to the bottom of my driveway, where I called my best friend to come get me. I slept with the lights on for an entire year after that. When we moved out of the house, everything stopped. I never had another paranormal experience, and that was 13 years ago. I don't have an explanation, but I don't even know if I want to know, to be honest. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Spooky Season. I hope you enjoyed watching or listening to it as much as we did making it. If you liked it, leave a like rating down below and subscribe for future content. See you next time, and sweet dreams.